Well, good morning, everybody. I was sitting in the airport yesterday as I'm preparing to talk at a couple different grower meetings this week, and I was listening to the folks around me just kind of have conversations, and many of them were about the weather, and many of them since I was kind of in an area where there was a flight across from me that was flying out to Omaha, and the flight that was nearest was actually going to Des Moines. A lot of those folks were just chatting about how mild things were, and they were hopeful that spring was on its way, and they were kind of restless after this winter. It was interesting just to listen to their thought process and their discussion about the weather. And I get it because on Monday, we had temperatures across Nebraska. There was a couple spots here in central Nebraska that hit 78 degrees Fahrenheit. We were in the 80s through Kansas into Oklahoma and Texas, and just very, very mild air spilled even farther to the east on Tuesday. I just want to show you these temperatures. Now, if you look, I love these animations. It's on a website called coolweather.com, COOLWX.com. And what you can look here is I'm showing you the last week of locations that approached or set new records. So the warmer colors represent where you're approaching high temperature records, and the cooler colors where you're approaching low temperature records. As you watch this again, because I was talking over it, I think it's fascinating just to look, let's blow that up, how mild things have been throughout the western states into the Midwest even at times, and certainly the plains, while the Northeast still endured this weekend into early this week, bone-chilling cold. And as I just think about all those conversations, I'm curious how many of them are aware of some of our longer-term forecasts, which unfortunately do bring colder air back into this corridor by the end of February and possibly in the beginning of March. And so I don't want to burst all those bubbles, but I kept my mouth shut. I'm reading a great book on artificial intelligence. It's by a guy named Zach Cass. It's a fascinating take if you're interested in that stuff. And I just kept to myself and didn't tell anybody the forecast. But anyways, I'm going to tell you all this morning because I think it's going to be quite interesting to watch, because already we've seen a change in the temperatures. Matt mentioned it yesterday with the cold front that came through. Temperatures are 15 to 20, almost 30 degrees cooler than they were yesterday at this time in the midsection of the country. The west is very close to where it was yesterday. The east is much, much warmer than it was yesterday. So I imagine a lot of those folks that have been just entrenched in cold air in the Northeast. In fact, I was on the plane with a guy who had just come from New Hampshire, and he was just commenting on the depth of the snow, the how brutally cold it had been. And he was sitting next to a lady that had just left Florida in cruises for the last month and a half. And so they were both, I think they were both flying to Des Moines today. So interesting, or last night. So I don't know, just fun to listen to what folks talk about. And for some reason at the airport, everybody just likes to talk. And so I just listen. All right, sorry, that's a little bit of a off-topic thing here, but I want to show you where I think this whole pattern's going. And it's been a story we've been building now for the last couple of weeks, and it's starting to really take shape across the U.S. Now, yesterday we watched a deep low that came into the west, and we're going to get into that in just a few seconds. That's a low actually just off this image, though, that I'm most interested in going forward here. Also, I did get a glimpse with yesterday's satellite data, although this morning, look at the mountain waves this morning. Those are beautiful. This morning, there's a lot of cloud cover over the Carolinas, but let me take you back to yesterday again. And you can see that a lot of that snow that hit here last weekend is was gone, and we're melting even more of it up into Virginia as well. And a lot of the Midwest snow that was in this region has, of course, melted too. I was fascinated to see this right here. This is north Bozeman, south of Great Falls, this region and through parts of Montana, which had some cloud cover and some kind of valley fog here, but there's looks like good snow in this area, but I know it's very dry around that. So the question is, are these western U.S. troughs going to be able to bring widespread western precipitation, or is it going to be focused? And right now it's focused. There are a pair of lows. Matt focused a lot on this one yesterday, and he mentioned the low that's behind it here and its impact as it's going to sweep to the south, show up in Arizona, New Mexico, into Texas, and then roll across the southern tier of the United States. But the most important thing is the suppression of and the shrinking and movement of this high pressure. So this is the high pressure cell that was much more expansive and occupied so much of the western United States for several weeks, more than a month. The last time we saw lows like this off the coast of California was the end of December, beginning of January. So you need to watch the second one if you're not in California. This guy's going to sneak around the bottom and come right across the country here, including a chance for some strong to severe storms in parts of New Mexico and Texas here coming up. All right, I want to show it to you on water vapor, because this is always just a great view of how this works. And you can see that the backside low has got more northerly flow, shoving it farther to the south. and it is going to pinwheel its way around the base of this trough and grab some of this more, it's almost subtropical in nature flow, and show up over here pretty soon. All right. Now, in the near term, early this morning, about 6 a.m., we're seeing strong wind issues forecast in California. There's winter weather advisories, a couple spots where there's winter storm warnings. I also like seeing this right now, the Colorado River Basin, getting into the Platte River system. We talked about it extensively. The snowpack is not good. In fact, a colleague of mine, his name's Brian, that works for Nutrien, who lives over here in Loveland, was driving through some of the passes, and he just goes, man, this should be packed up with snow. And he sent me a picture of just no snow as he was rolling through Colorado. And I responded to his text right away. I said, look, I've got snow coming, and we need to talk about how much here in just a few moments. But I want to show you, this is as we get out there on February 11th, where the Storm Prediction Center not February 11th, today's the 11th, so the 13th, the Storm Prediction Center does have, I should probably change my title here so that's more clear. The Storm Prediction Center does have this risk of thunderstorms. There's currently just a marginal risk in this area, and we just need to be aware of the chance for some of those storms. Now, we've continued to work hard on getting all of our new maps onto the new system, and I can't wait to release this. I'm sorry that it's not done yet, but it just takes a while to get this coding done. So let's talk about where we are. This is the high-res NAM early this morning. We do have the light snow in the northeast. There's our frontal boundary here, okay? And there's our first low off the coast of California. And as we watch this, the snow moves into the northeast. The front sags farther to the south. That will be definitely changing the temperatures over here. But this first low coming into California, let's kind of zoom over here and see it a little bit better. All right. This guy is going to spin through north of San Francisco, heading up toward the Sacramento Valley. Snow will move through parts of the the Rockies here. But there's the low we're keeping an eye on. So I'm sorry, I played that kind of fast, but here it is. This is Wednesday at 6 a.m., playing through the day on Wednesday. I mean, there's going to be some locally heavy rain here. But take a look at the low farther. There it is. Watch this guy coming out here as it sneaks around and starts to merge through the Baja into like Chihuahua here, and then gets into Arizona and New Mexico. Now, the NAM only runs out 60 hours, so I can only take you out there to Friday. But this is the 13th, and we're going to watch for the chance of some stronger storms here later in the day. This only goes through noon coming into this area. Since we mentioned some snow, let's flip this over and just see how much. Hopefully this will load relatively quickly here. I like doing these trips because I can test the speed of my website on very slow internet, which is what I'm on right now. And there we go. We're kind of looking at some of these totals here. That's something. We just need to get more of this in place. All right, so that's our first kind of system we're going to think about. Now, the West is going to continue to take on more systems. But this first round, some of the models are showing a little bit different concentration of where the heaviest rains are. So you can see here that the newest WPC run, which is, of course, the weather forecast map that is aided by human forecasters, which is why I show it. It's going to be probably our best representation. But it does often blend. So you can see it doesn't have quite the delineation that the models do when they give you total precipitation amounts. But you can see from Norman all the way down here to Macon, Georgia. I mean, we've got maybe all the way over to Jacksonville. We've got some wet conditions, good chance at 2 to 3 inches of moisture, which is desperately needed in this area. Once again, our holdout is going to be farther to the north in this area. We got to wait for some bigger systems to climb through the west and eject into this area. But over the next 7 days, that's the quadrant east of the Rockies we're going to watch. Now, in California, we are adding a lot of moisture. The last holdout in the west for getting the best moisture is going to be in the northwest, given how far to the south these lows are going. But I want to do some model comparison for you here today. Let's start with the European. This is the European 7-day forecast. Okay, we're looking at precipitation anomalies. And Matt talked a lot about this yesterday. You're going to have to wait into week 2 before we start to see the above average precip in like the Willamette Valley or up toward the Puget Sound or getting into the Columbia Basin. Then you get out into the Midwest. We're drier on the northern side of this all the way through the Great Lakes into the Northeast, although the Mid-Atlantic is expected to pick up some good moisture out of this first system. California takes the brunt of it, though, as you see. But week 2, all right, now we see more of the Northwest in the European ensemble picking up the moisture. The South is drier, and there's a bit more of a storm track that's going to hit the Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, the Canadian Prairie, and also the Ohio River Valley. Now, of course, that's just the European model. Don't forget that on agweather.com, you can see all of the models stacked up against each other. All right, so I got 5 of them here that I like to use. And directly below that, I have all the snow maps, too. So we can do that. So please take advantage of this. How do you get here? Is just go to agweather.com, and at the top you click on weather maps. I still have this old kind of way I used to show all the maps here. Gosh, the internet's slow here. And you can just scroll down until you see them right there. There's all my favorite models. Now, I got asked this the other day. A friend says, hey, show that skill score. I haven't seen it from you in a while. I said, yeah, the model skills, while we have maintained a European advantage on average, for the last month or so of about 3%. Lately, the European advantage has grown. Last 7 days, can you see how much better it's been performing over the GFS? But I haven't shown it because both models are performing at a relatively high skill right now, and that's why I think it's so valuable to compare them against each other. So let's do this. I'm just going to look at precip first, okay? So let's play this out through the next week and just see in the European model what it's given us in terms of total accumulated precipitation by next Tuesday night. That's what this next week forecast looks like. And I'm going to immediately compare it to the GFS, which we've almost got the GFS fully into the system here. So there's the two models side by side. And as I look at it, I start to see some differences in where the heaviest precipitation is overall. But it's the European model and the way it's handling the subsequent systems that I'm interested in. Here's what I mean. You'll note that you get out there, this would be next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now watch the north central plains. We start to see systems late in the forecast time period trying to fill this in. And over that 15-day time frame, this is just absolutely soaked with moisture. Now, again, I'm only showing this because I'm looking for, because we talk every day, I'm hoping you follow trends. We're never going to look at this and go, oh yeah, northern Iowa is going to get 1.4 inches exactly over the next 15 days. No, this is not how this works. But let's see if the GFS does something similar. Now, it's trying to add in systems here. And this, again, is our holdout region. So let's go back and kind of get a sense of the timing of it. Hopefully this will load relatively quickly here. This is fantastic. Great. So this is precipitation type and intensity, and it should load up shortly the isobars on top of it. Let's go ahead and get it playing, though. All right, we're seeing the systems through Friday. Now watch here. Remember, Friday night into Saturday morning, the risk of strong storms. The northwest takes a system also Friday night to Saturday morning, and there goes another low along the California coast by the time we get into next Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, as you saw, I need to fix that, realize it. When it finishes loaded everything, it goes back to the beginning. All right, we'll fix that. But let's get you back up to that point again. Here it is. Now, this is the first system that's coming through on Valentine's Day. So this is early in the day on Valentine's Day. It rolls through the Mid-South, through the Delta, and there's a chance for some strong storms to the south, but it's mostly a rainmaker until it catches a little cold air damming here and possibly put down some decent snow into Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. Now, again, we're 5 days out on this. We have to watch to see how well the models are handling it. But there it is rolling off the coast. Now, I'll show you in a minute what we're thinking about. In fact, while that's happening, I'm going to make the GFS load this up too, just so we can have a look at it. Okay. Our next system's in California by this weekend into Monday and Tuesday, and that is the big one I want to watch because this is a snowmaker through the western mountains as this one deepens off the coast. It's going to make for very windy conditions in the midsection of the country. Look at the spacing of these isobars. And the system goes north, and it is finally, look at this, it came in like that. Montana, this is your wind and snowmaker. We need every bit of this in here. Look at all the snow throughout the Intermountain West. More wet conditions. And now we're within a week of this, so I'm starting to get a little more trust in the models. We then play it out. This is next Wednesday, Thursday. It goes pretty far to the north. What I'm curious about is, will this high pressure be enough to open this back up for moisture transport? Or does the frontal boundary, it goes off the screen here, scour all of this out and just take the moisture with it? That's going to be the thing. Are these two systems too close to one another, where the front on the first one right there is already cleared and drawn all of the good moisture out? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. What does the GFS do with it? All right, let's play through Thursday, Friday. Okay, there's our risk of the strong storms. It's in both models. Good. Now we get out there toward the system pulling through the Mid-South. Look at that. Look at that difference. GFS has got no snow on the northern side of this. Just a reminder, at this time frame, The European is dumping snow right in this area. The GFS is not. And it leaves the coast now. There's still a deep low coming out here, though. It's still got it. And it emerges into the north, but it also does not bring in the moisture here. But it definitely has the following lows coming into the west at 180 hours out, which is right here in the European. So let's kind of play this forward. There we go. That is Thursday. We're 200 hours out. I can't really trust this. But I mean, I have multiple systems coming into the west, as you can see here. Let's go over and have a look at this snow. There we go. And why don't we get this you guy loading up with snow too? I eventually plan to build this where these are side by side. Like you have one side of the screen here and the other there. We'll see if it looks good. Watch the northeast. Ready? This is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Just hammering this area. And does the GFS even care? Did I not put that on snow? Oh, I haven't fixed this dumb map yet. I have the wrong color bar. Yeah, I'll fix it later. Don't worry about it. Okay. You know that it's not there, though. Told you this is a work in progress. But look at the Sierra Nevada. And now watch what comes after this. Snow, Montana. Snow across the northern tier of the U.S. Canadian prairie. And I don't care. I'll take you out 270 hours. This is fantastic. We need all of this from these next few systems. Okay. With all of that, we need to go look at some probabilities. How about the chance at getting over an inch of liquid? This, I think, is where our highest chances for that are going to be. And then, of course, the west. All right. Who's the last holdout for the dryness, though? This is the next 10 days probability of staying under 1/10 of an inch. If I can get the website to load. I apologize. We're having some internet connectivity problems here. I'll come back to this if I can, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be here the longest. That's going to be our longest shot at staying drier. I did pull up, though, the ECMWF member locations for the low pressure. Just we're trying to see how well the ensemble is picking up on these features. So let me take you out there through Thursday into Friday. And now we're going to watch this system come out of, here it is, the Southern Plains, Saturday the 14th. I want to see where that low is. There it comes over the delta on Saturday night, Sunday morning. And yeah, see, this is the trouble. If the low is here versus here, that'll entirely change where the potential for heavy snow is going to be. But you notice that Monday the 16th, 1, 2, 3, 4 different areas of low pressure being shown in the models. They then come out of the mountains. Look at this. That is the 16th and 17th, taking something into the plains. That's all that matters. There is a storm system out here in less than a week. And that one goes toward the Great Lakes. And I'm just going to watch the west after this. The 19th, 20th, there's still, look, the high's offshore. There's still lower pressure there. And I think we get some more least cyclogenesis on the 21st. So these are all kind of positive signals. Did this load? There it goes, sorry. So like I mentioned, there's your chances of staying on the drier side of average for the next 10 days. So Nebraska, which we know is deep in drought, you're the holdout here. Let's see if I can get this to load up precipitation on the winter side of things. Oh, good. It's now back and running. That's 3-inch chance over the next 10 days. Again, watch the northern tier and watch here carefully. These are our spots to keep an eye on all week. This is now 6 inches, 12. Now watch. Sierra Nevada, 18, 24, 36. That we need all of this. This is huge for California to keep them to keep them away from the drought monitor. All right, let's get on with this. Winds. I did want to mention one thing with these systems coming through. Now watch. This is out here on the 14th, 15th, 16th. Watch this system. Remember, the European model takes it through the Mid-South, brings it over to the coast, and rapidly intensifies it off coast. Now, if this does show up as the current European model suggests, I'm talking out there Sunday into Monday, then the risk is going to be in this area for almost blizzard-like conditions. Now, they're there. I'm not, there's no hype with this. I'm just telling you one model run has gone after it. You know that the GFS doesn't have it, but this is enough wind to make that occur with the snow that it's projecting. Let's keep going because the systems that follow, look at the downslope winds we could be getting off the Rocky Mountains. Very, very strong. Look at the southern plains here. And if this area does not pick up the moisture from this Friday, Saturday event, we could be looking at huge dust storms coming out of the southern plains if that moisture does not come through. All right, so let's continue to monitor that. But these next few systems are going to make things very windy throughout the U.S. What about 10 days from now? Like I've taken out 10 days. What's beyond that? There is still a western trough and a ridge that's off the shore. And as a result, our week 2 models all show wetter conditions. But as we talked about, maybe the more southern track is a bit more off the risk of where the systems are going to enter the northwest and roll across the northern tier of the United States. All right. Most important thing with all of this is with the mild air ahead of it, unlike the previous mega winter storm on the 24th and 25th, with mild air ahead of it, we're thawing the ground, and so we're going to get to keep some of this moisture. So I'll be very anxious to see how this map looks about the end of February. That'll be what we'll watch. All right, let's talk temperatures. Here's today's highs. Getting into Thursday, 75 in Amarillo. Very, very mild. We've got 50s and 60s in parts of southern Minnesota. Look at that, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now we're talking deep troughs in the west, and that's Tuesday. Do you see how many days in a row here? I've looked. The average temperature departure for the next 7 days is 22 degrees in this area. That's over 7 days. Incredible to see that. But as I mentioned at the beginning, here's your next 5 days. That's day 5 through 10. Look at this reservoir of colder air returning. And this is day 10 through 15. And by most accounts, we are watching the models take the polar vortex and send it all the way to the other side of the planet. Watch, this is getting through Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Our big stratospheric warming events are here and here. Now remember, whenever we're going to unleash cold into the U.S., especially the eastern U.S., you have to bring in those pinches like this and like that. Well, no, we're pinwheeling this thing around. Matt talked about the polar vortex yesterday and its weakness. And what we're concerned about is we get out there to the 18th, 19th, and 20th, and we've shoved it all the way over to Europe. Okay, it's here. And the question is going to be, at what point does this kind of give us this wobble effect, this rebound effect, and drive cold air back in? Because some of our models are picking up on it, right? We've shown this all week and even last week as well. Here's the next week ahead. This is week 2. Cold west. Look at the cold air returning here. This is getting into week 3. And we start to see something opening this channel back up. And then you go forward into the month of March. And right now the models, I think, are just hung up on bias at that point. But they're trying all the way to the official start of spring to keep this area colder. Now, listen, we are going to question this nonstop. I am not questioning this too greatly right now. This end of February return of some colder air while this region likely stays mild. I don't know how long it's going to last. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you the model's doing this, but we don't have to give this much weight. Understand? I think this is more important here at the end of February. All right, beyond that, the MJO is definitely in phase 3, and that is critical because we know something about phase 3 in February, where the troughs are, and even into March, where the troughs are. And that is one of the reasons why the new GFS, okay, if you start sweeping in troughs like this, their speed is what's going to be critical for this region, and their depth, because there is no subtropical component to this jet. It's all coming in from this direction. But you can see Great Lakes, Midwest, Ohio Valley, Northeast, plus the Northwest is expected to be wetter than average. And it's also in the European weeklies as well. So this is going to be top of mind. So these next 2 systems, the one coming through on Friday and then the one that follows it next week, critical for the southern plains. All right, I want to finish with a bit on South America. Last 30 days, this is updated through the 9th now. We can see where that expansive dryness has been. We do know that we've lately had better storms in pockets here, but I just want to show you this. I looked at some of the new NDVI data, and again, we are in the 8th week of record high NDVI in Brazil for their cropland. But if you come down to Uruguay, which is one of those really dry spots, their NDVI has crashed on the recent drought. See, this is still within the envelope, but it's there. Argentina NDVI has just been trying to hover right around average. And that just shows you the areas, the pockets that have been hit hardest with drought are also being balanced out by areas that have had decent moisture. Just something to consider. As we look out there over the next week, I want to show you total precipitation because we do see a very stormy setup throughout much of Argentina and pockets of southern Brazil. And even across the north. I mean, there's rain coming in the next 5 to 7 days across a lot of Brazil. And that, I think, is going to be just the driving point to be watching here as we go forward with respect to the South American harvest and harvest pace on soybeans, planting pace on safrinha corn, and the drought situation in Argentina. But as I look down here and start to see these key areas like Buenos Aires over toward Cordoba, Rosario, Santa Fe, there's some forecast here putting down, this is just in the next, this gets us out to next Wednesday. The European model's going after 5 to 7 inches of rain here. Now that could be too much, but it's just something to monitor. All right, I'm going to stop with that and just say thanks, and we'll talk again on Friday. Matt will pick it up tomorrow on Thursday. Have a good one.